was born in 1970. Wasn't until really, sort of maybe the mid 80s where I started to notice people were, going to see therapists for, counseling and for cognitive behavioral therapy, for helping to process and unpack and work through losses or work through experiences that were traumatizing. So for me, I just basically picked up and moved on. So the lucky bit is that I had that early experience of the vocal grief practices, and then I also had a career in the performing arts, and so I was a dancer, and I had the ability to move through my feelings of grief, and I was really, really drawn to working in creative pieces that were focused on transitions, loss, and death. And then that led to quite a long career, so about 30 years now of professional somatic therapeutic coaching and ceremonial facilitation practice. Involves supporting loss and grief among people. And as I mentioned, in the former Yugoslavia, that was something I worked with people between 2008 or 2009 and 2019. Um, and there is still um, that ecotherapeutic practice available there, that series of ceremonies. Then the pandemic came, and after the pandemic, I decided that I wasn't content to just kind of carry on working from home and not seeing people and not connecting and not kind of growing by sharing information and learning. So I started a master's degree, and my thesis was on using grief ritual as a way to help therapists, healthcare workers in my community to work through their ambiguous losses so that their level of burnout, which was very, very high, was able to have some grassroots support. And that even though there was really such uh, um, there was such a lack or a systemic scarcity of real support for people who were in that kind of burnout, and there was sort of a lack of understanding that people who were in healthcare actually needed that process. They needed to let go of what they were carrying because um, those losses really, like people who care, um, that isn't just a professional, like a barriered professional experience. It does actually leak into your life. And so a lot of people were experiencing burnout. And I just noticed that there was a definite need for people to reach in and help and support through some kind of grief acknowledgement. So I worked with, did a participatory action project with a group of healthcare workers on Salt Spring Island, and we did some grief ritual, and it turned out, yeah, there was some support found there. There was some opening. There was some movement of grief, and there was also some like unacknowledged stuff that they noticed and kind of didn't put words to, like they're the already mounting housing crisis in their community became exacerbated by the pandemic, as it has here on Vancouver Island as well. Um, that the economy, the availability of goods, of food, of like the affordability of basic staples of life. All of these things became incredibly difficult during the pandemic, especially in smaller communities like Salt Spring. And yet, people still had to keep showing up and supporting people through their needs for healthcare. So it was something that became, for me, really notable, that we could use something so simple as a grief ritual that was easily organized and easily designed. I brought a very basic ritual design to that group, and I created a manual from that experience, that knowledge product, which is available. I can upload the links at some point for the manual. It's part of my master's thesis. So all that to say, I'm really intensely curious about unacknowledged loss, unprocessed grief. I'm really deeply invested in how we create community-based supports for building connection and resilience, because I think it's not enough that we have like more counselors or more mental health workers, more social workers that really deal with people after things have gotten drastically worse, where they can no longer kind of help themselves or be helped by people in their communities or be supported by family members and friends, but actually they need, also to involve professionals. And I'm all for that if people need that, for sure. I think that if a person is really entrenched in grief and it becomes a sense of feeling stuck or prolonged, or that it has become depression, or there's other health related issues, which is true about grief and loss, that it impacts our health completely, on a systemic level, not just on a mental health level, but also on a cellular level, on a systems level. So I believe that we do need people to assist us, professionals, but I think that we can't have professionals to replace community members when we're looking at grief support. And so we need to put some systems in place that are easily produced, easily created, that don't cost a lot of money, that don't take a lot of time, and people can then um, create them for themselves and with their friends and families. So that was my intention, and that's part of my intention for my dissertation.